What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about a trio of new Transformers TCG battle cards. And really, these are cards which cannot be looked at on their own. These have to be looked at as a trio because they're exceedingly similar. And they set up kind of a rock, paper, scissors deal. And it's all revolving around melee characters, specialists, and range characters. Really, they're kind of, well, a bit of a trio in and of themselves, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, these were actually revealed as a trio on the Transformers Facebook group by, I believe, the lovely Ken Nagel, if I remember correctly. So let's have a little bit of a gander, shall we? So starting off, we've got Covert Armor. It can only be put onto melee characters, and when the upgraded character is defending against a specialist, you get +1 defense, as well as a general +1 defense. So you've always got +1 defense regardless, but then if you're defending against a specialist, you get +2 defense instead. It's never terrible, but it gets a lot better against a specialist. Reflex circuits can only be put onto range characters, and when you're defending against a melee character, you have +1 defense, and then of course there is a +1 defense in there generally. So again, it's always fine, but when you're against a melee character, it's double as good, and then you've probably worked it out by now, but Sturdy Armor goes on specialists only and gives you an extra +1 defense against ranged characters. And it gives you +1 generally. So it's basically sitting there giving you either +1 or +2 defense, depending on whether you're up against the right kind of card. And here's the thing. Before we get into analysis and all of that, we need to remind ourselves that sideboards have been officially introduced into the Transformers trading card game. I covered them in my organised play video. I'll pop a link to that one in the description. Hopefully I'll remember. And when we looked at that, we said, well, now we can have sideboards, and sideboards are these things that you essentially have sitting there in between games, in, around, you can switch cards in and out. I don't think these are often going to be in your deck straight away. I think it's going to take something quite serious. So let's say, for argument's sake, your locals is full of characters that are melee. Then cool. If you're up against a whole bunch of melee characters, then by all means, put a reflex circuits in for your ranged characters. But you've got to be playing range, you've got to be against melee, it's not really going to work. What you do is, if you're playing ranged characters, you pop reflex circuits into your sideboard so that if you end up against a heavy melee deck, you can pop it in, because otherwise it's just not going to be good enough. Now, just very quickly looking at the pips here, you've got a blue pip and a green pip on each of them. Blue pip is nice if you are defending, but bearing in mind these are defensive cards. They give you +1 defense as standard and an extra +1 defense if you're against the right kind of character. So frankly, we want blue icons here. This is made for a defensive deck, and sure, sometimes you want to boost your defense and use orange icons to flip while you're attacking, fine. But generally speaking, this is a defensive card and we like it. And the green icon we like even more. At the end of a battle, whether you're attacking or defending, you may swap a card in your hand for a green card that you flipped during the battle, only once per battle. Though we do have Dinobot Swoop, who, if you really like, can get you a second one. And you don't actually have to swap to get with Dinobot Swoop, you can just have one. So that's kind of nice. If that's what you're into, go Dinobot Swoop Bombardier. But this just means you're going to be able to get them. This just means that you're going to be able to draw into them. You're not going to have those games where you always flip them while attacking or defending and they never end up in your hand. The green icon means you're going to be able to grab them. So is +2 defense good enough? And the answer is generally yes. +2 defense is pretty good. Now, if we have a look at the other kind of cards that give you +2 defense, we've got Blast Shield. Now, Blast Shield came around in Wave 1. And Blast Shield's a pretty gosh darn good card if all you want to do is boost your defense. Gives you a blue icon, gives you +2 defense, and it falls off at the end of the battle. When you defend, it falls off. So actually, having a +2 defense that sticks is pretty good, and you've got the same blue icon. And you've got the green icon. So if you're defending against the right kind of character, we can compare these to Blast Shield and go, oh yeah, they're just plain flat out better than Blast Shield. Oh, that's quite nice then. And the fact is here, we don't really see much +2 defense on upgrades. We see an awful lot of +1 defense. We even see, if you have a look at Erratic Lightning, a -1 defense. But we don't see +2 very often. So what we have here is a really nice set of free cards that can give you +2 defense, that have got a green icon, and frankly, my advice here is, if you can justify playing them, play them. Because you're basically looking at a objectively better Blast Shield. Doesn't fall off when you defend, has a green icon, otherwise basically the same. The questions are basically, firstly, how often is this actually going to be used? And I think the real answer to that is, it's a sideboard card rather than necessarily a deck card, unless you are playing a particular type of character and you are expecting to play against the corresponding type. If you're playing a deck full of melee characters and you're expecting to be playing against a bunch of specialists, and outside of a couple of big tournaments we're getting at Gen Con and Origins, we're basically talking little tournaments for Transformers. We're talking local shop tournaments. So if you go regularly, you should know what your friends are playing, or at least have an inkling. And if you think you're going to be against a bunch of specialists, Covert Armor becomes a great card. No argument there. But otherwise, it's a sideboard card. But the other question becomes, okay, do we have better options? Now, for melee characters, we might do in the form of body armor. Because you see, body armor comes along, and it gives you tough 3. So when you're defending, you flip 3 more battle cards, and you can only put it on a melee character, but same thing with Covert Armor. And if you're playing enough blue icons, generally speaking, tough 3 is going to be better than +2 defense, and you're always going to get the tough 3. You're not always going to get the +2 defense. Now it's got an orange icon rather than a blue, and you are missing the green icon. They are important considerations. But for melee characters, again, I can imagine putting Covert Armor into my sideboard, but in a melee deck, if I want to go a little bit defensive, I don't know if I can really imagine playing Covert Armor when I could be playing body armor instead. Now, for range characters, it's a little bit more of an interesting choice because we've got Rapid Ascent. Now, Rapid Ascent gives you +1 defense, just like the other one, but it never goes up to +2. But when you attach it, your opponent has to scrap a card from their hand. So you're giving up the chance to go from +1 to +2, but you're adding in a bit of hand disruption, so I'm kind of okay with this. Now, you do have an orange icon, not a blue, and you don't have the green, and it's only ever +1. But you're sitting here going, okay, we got worse pips, but am I willing to give up a blue and a green icon for an orange? And then am I willing to give up a chance of an extra 1 defense for a guaranteed hand disruption? The answer may very well be yes. And then in terms of specialist, we've got all these multi things. In terms of armor, we're looking at a bit of the old multi-mission gear. Gives you +1 defense. Again, it's got an orange icon. To be clear, generally speaking, for balance, we see +1 defense going with an orange icon. We've seen that multiple times in this video already. So having these cards that boost your armor and have blue icons, that is actually significant. The thing is, when you attach it, you get to play an action. And playing an extra action compared to a chance of +1 defense, I really like. So the biggest issue I've got with these cards is that all 3 of these types of characters have good options already. These have superior pip combinations, no argument from me there. But I think what I said early on is where I finish at the end of this video. I think we're in sideboard territory. I don't know if playing a specialist deck, I can really justify playing sturdy armor when I could instead be playing multi-mission gear and getting extra actions. Hey, but maybe that's just me. I'd like to know what you think about these. Are they going straight in your deck because the pip combination is that gosh darn good? Or are you instead going to wait and see and consider them sideboard cards? Let me know in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games. Yay, like Transformers and a whole bunch of others. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.